Ron Howard has long been seen as a calm and dignified figure in the turbulent world of Hollywood. Known for his fairness and respect, his demeanor changes when the topic turns to the hidden truths of the industry that shaped him. He once suggested that the reality of Hollywood's golden age was far from golden. According to Howard, it was a world built on pressure and silence, where fame acted as a shield for certain stars, allowing them to behave without consequence. The creators of America's fantasies were sometimes the cause of real-life nightmares behind closed doors. Now, Howard is willing to speak about the individuals at the center of that chaos. Errol Flynn, the devil behind the smile. Long before modern action heroes, there was Errol Flynn, the charming adventurer who made danger look appealing. On screen, he was the perfect hero. Off-screen, Howard explains, he was a reckless and impulsive man driven by ego. Born in 1909, Flynn shot to fame in the 1930s with Captain Blood. Studios capitalized on his charm, but underneath it all, he struggled with serious addictions. By the 1940s, his life was spiraling. In 1942, he faced serious charges involving two young women. The story became a national sensation. Flynn, however, treated the trial like a joke, acting as if his stardom made him untouchable. His studio hired powerful lawyers, and it was rumored that witnesses were pressured to disappear. Flynn was acquitted, but the scandal stained his image. Ron Howard has said that learning about this trial was a turning point for him. It showed him how Hollywood would protect its stars, no matter what they had done. To the public, Flynn remained a hero, but to insiders, he was a warning. Years of alcohol and drug abuse destroyed him, and he died in 1959 at just 50 years old. Howard believes Flynn's story is a prime example of Hollywood's moral failures. Kirk Douglas, the man who couldn't stop fighting. To Ron Howard, Kirk Douglas was the definition of a contradiction. On screen, he was a champion of justice. Off-screen, he was known as an intimidating man who was always ready for a confrontation. Born into poverty, Douglas fought his way to the top. By the time Spartacus made him a legend, he had immense power. But those who worked with him spoke of his terrible temper. Crew members described him as impossible to please, creating a tense and stressful atmosphere on set. Ron Howard, who studied Douglas's acting, felt there was a deep rage under the surface. Throughout his career, troubling stories circulated about his behavior toward women. These allegations, often related to the secretive culture of the era, were never proven in court, and the key people involved are no longer alive to speak. Douglas was never charged, and the stories were buried under a wall of industry silence. Director Stanley Kubrick called Douglas the most driven and hardest-to-control man he had ever met. For Howard, the lesson of Douglas's career was about how unchecked power can corrupt. When Douglas received an honorary Oscar in 1996, many saw a dignified end to a great career. Howard saw a final performance from a man who had spent his life battling his own demons. Fay Dunaway, the queen of cruelty. If Flynn represented corruption and Douglas embodied rage, Fay Dunaway symbolized a different kind of Hollywood darkness. For Ron Howard, she was proof that bad behavior could manifest as ego and humiliation, crushing the spirit of a film set. Dunaway rose to fame quickly with hits like Bonnie and Clyde and Chinatown. She had an icy, magnetic presence. But behind the glamorous image, stories of her harsh behavior were common. Crew members spoke of tantrums and impossible demands. During the filming of Mommy Dearest, where she played the abusive actress Joan Crawford, Dunaway's on-set behavior reportedly mirrored the cruelty of her character. The film's director, Frank Perry, nearly quit because of her extreme outbursts. She allegedly threw objects and berated staff, creating an atmosphere of fear. Howard saw her as an example of what happens when an actor's need for control turns into emotional domination. The stories continued for years. Eventually, Hollywood stopped calling. Directors found her too difficult to manage. For Howard, Dunaway became a symbol of what happens when talent exists without empathy. John Wayne, the tyrant of the West. Few stars were as big as John Wayne. To millions, he was the ultimate American hero. But for Ron Howard, the truth behind the legend was much darker. When Howard learned who Wayne really was, the heroic image was instantly destroyed. "I stopped seeing the hero," he reflected. "I saw the bully." Born Marion Morrison, Wayne built his career on an image of unbreakable toughness. By the 1950s, he was not just an actor but a cultural force who saw disagreement as weakness. On set, he ruled through intimidation. Crew members who didn't meet his standards were shouted at in front of everyone. Wayne's behavior wasn't limited to yelling. He belittled women, mocked Native American performers, and dismissed black actors who challenged stereotypes. His infamous 1971 Playboy interview revealed his deeply prejudiced views on race and society. Even late in his life, weakened by cancer, he never backed down from his controversial statements. While many still see him as an icon, filmmakers like Howard view his story as a warning that power mixed with prejudice only turns bitter with age. Roman Polanski, the exile of shame. For Ron Howard, the name Roman Polanski represents one of Hollywood's most painful truths, that brilliance can coexist with evil. Howard admired Polanski's films before he knew the details of his life. "Then I realized," he said, "talent doesn't absolve a person, sometimes it hides them." Polanski, a survivor of the Holocaust, became a celebrated director with films like Rosemary's Baby. In 1977, he was arrested in a case involving a young teenager. He pleaded guilty to a serious charge but fled the country before he could be sentenced. He has never returned to the U.S. The case split Hollywood. Some condemned him while others defended him as a tortured artist. For Howard, the industry's reaction was heartbreaking. He felt people were defending the art while a child's life had been shattered. Polanski continued to work and even won an Oscar in 2003 for The Pianist. Howard called the moment stomach-turning. When the audience stood to applaud, he remained in his seat. For Howard, Polanski's story represents a system that protects the artist but ignores the victims. Mickey Rooney, the smile that lied. Mickey Rooney's story showed Hollywood's power of illusion, where a cheerful smile could mask a lifetime of pain. For Ron Howard, learning the truth about the happy-go-lucky star was a shock. "Behind that smile was misery," Howard said, "and worse, he spread it." Rooney was Hollywood's first massive child star, but early fame twisted him. He married 8 times, gambled away fortunes, and left emotional chaos in his wake. His friend and co-star, Judy Garland, said he could make you laugh 1 minute and tear you down the next. By the 1960s, his career was in shambles, followed by scandals and financial ruin. Even in old age, he remained angry, blaming others for his failures. When he died in 2014, he had almost no money left. For Howard, Rooney's life was the final piece of a troubling puzzle. He was proof that many of Hollywood's brightest stars were hiding dark secrets. To Ron Howard, these stories are not about revenge. They are warnings. The golden age was not golden for everyone. It was built on silence, pressure, and lives hidden by the glare of fame. As he once said, the scariest monsters are not in the movies. They are the ones the spotlight protects.